Welcome back, friends. Today I'm here to tell you a tale about a melody that will drive you insane. That's right, today we'll be venturing into Song of Horror, a game released in an episodic format between 2019 and 2020. The game consists of 5 episodes, including a prelude, interlude, and a finale. Song of Horror is a third-person survival horror game, a nice throwback to original horror games. Some may argue that first-person horror games are more immersive, but I think viewing Song of Horror in third person makes it even more engaging. Watching the dread on the characters' faces as they experience the unexplainable. Not to mention the sound effects in this game, sound is a huge part of the game, listening to what may be lurking next door. If you're wearing headphones while playing, you may want to change into brown trousers or invest in some Pampers. The game's narrative revolves around a cursed music box. Those who listen to it will eventually succumb to their death. Even those who consider themselves horror aficionados will feel the unending dread when playing Song of Horror. The game takes great inspiration not just from Lovecraftian horror. It has many Easter eggs and nods to other horror games, especially when it comes to solving puzzles and combining items, just like in early Silent Hill and Resident Evil franchises. The game also draws heavy inspiration from a John Carpenter cult classic feature, In the Mouth of Madness. The two plots are intertwined. An author goes missing, a book publishing agent goes on a mission to find said author, only to find themselves in a horrific situation. Before we dive into the mad world of Song of Horror, there will be major spoilers ahead. Now, join me in the void as we witness the unfolding horrors. And remember, if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. Song of Horror is set in 1998, and I will go through the timeline with the progression of each episode. The prelude opens with our main protagonist, Daniel Neuer, a book publishing agent who fell on some hard times. Luckily, Daniel was able to turn over a new leaf, thanks to his sponsor Lydia and his boss Etienne. Even though Daniel is now divorced, he is still on good terms with his ex-wife Sophie. It is Friday evening when Daniel receives a phone call from Etienne, who is concerned about the sudden disappearance of their best client and author, Sebastian Huscher. It has been weeks since anyone has heard from him, so Daniel sets out to find Huscher. Arriving at the Huscher mansion, Daniel lets himself in, only to realize that no one is home. Daniel walks into Huscher's study and notices a strange door. Hearing a melody, he begins approaching the door. Now, I'd be boarding the Nope Train Express, but since this is a horror game, you better believe that silly duffer is gonna walk in. Yep. He walks in and the door vanishes. It has been 3 days since Etienne has heard from Daniel, so he becomes increasingly worried and contacts Sophie. Sophie tells Etienne that she has not been in contact with Daniel for some time, so the pair decide to look for him. Now it is time to
choose your fighter!
At the beginning of each episode, you'll get to choose your character, and here's the kicker. The game has a permadeath mechanic, so if your character dies, they'll drop whatever they have collected and a newly chosen character will pick off where their predecessor met their end. The game has 11 playable characters in total, all having different attributes. Since old mate Etienne sent Daniel to look into Hush's disappearance, I say it's fair game that Etienne goes to find Daniel. It's your problem now, bud. Etienne arrives at the Huscher mansion and begins investigating. The game has many, and I mean many puzzles, some ranging from pretty easy to downright infuriating. Etienne finds letters addressed to Huscher by a man named Isaac Faber. It seems Faber was the one to give the music box to Huscher in the first place in hopes of finding out its origins, as well as needing distance from it. Faber believed that these recent horrific hallucinations that he was experiencing were due to the music box and its maddening melody. The melody was in his mind 24/7. When Huscher brought the box home with him, he did not realize the impact that it would have on him and his family, as well as their housekeeper, Masha. Huscher's children, Julia and Sol, his wife Catherine, and Masha all heard the melody, which later resulted in their deaths. Just a quick side note, Masha is the wife of Alexander Laskin, one of the playable characters in the first episode, which makes more sense as why he would be in on the investigation. Each chapter has a specific objective. For example, in this chapter, in order to enter the room where Daniel found the mysterious door and vanished is now locked. There are a total of 5 dolls that we have to find and place in a dollhouse as per instructions in order to get the key, but it's not a simple task. A dark presence stalks the hallways and rooms of the mansion, prompting paranormal occurrences. Shortly after, we are introduced to the first of many mini-games in Song of Horror. This one is aptly called The Presence. In order to survive, we have to hide and calm ourselves by regulating our heartbeat. As we progress with each episode, a new minigame will be introduced, and I will touch upon them as we venture further into the story. There are also revenants that you may bump into, ghosts of the victims lingering, whether they're NPCs or previous playable characters. As a general rule of thumb, I would not go near them, as it may result in your demise. Now, we need some light-hearted humour and Easter eggs. There's a cutscene where your character will need to fish out an item out of a toilet. In order to do so, you'll need to find a pair of tongs. I don't know whether that's a callback to Silent Hill 2, where the main protagonist, James, just shoves his bare hand into a filthy toilet like a Neanderthal. But our man Etienne has class and will not resort to that. Another fun Easter egg. Earlier on in the episode, you'll find a matchbox branded Type 90. This is a nod to Fatal Frame, a special film needed for the camera obscura, the only defense weapon against the ghosties in the Fatal Frame series. Back to the story. When entering new rooms, you should definitely press your ear against the door and listen. Now, I played Song of Horror 4 times since its release and still managed to mess up by walking into the wrong room. Upstairs, if you enter Sol's bedroom, you'll be greeted by the boy and Catherine, and they just want to make friends in the afterlife, so we say our goodbyes to Etienne. God damn it! This time I went with Sophie. She is, after all, the closest person to Daniel. We pick up the items that Etienne dropped and continue with the investigation. Once we have all of the dolls and place them accordingly, a key pops out to the room with the spooky door, but the presence has taken residence in there, so we cannot enter. We find these life-size, whatever the hell these things are, in the rooms akin to the dollhouse puzzle. Each replica of the doll has a short poem, and finding all of the pieces tells us to toss the toilet doll in the fire. With that, the presence is gone and Sophie is able to enter the room. She finds the same door and goes in. In one of the rooms, she finds Daniel, who is luckily still alive. A little while later, Daniel is in the hospital and is eager to get back to finding Husher, now having more intel. Next stop, Isaac Faber's antique store. In the episode's final cutscene, Daniel sees a horrifying apparition, which tells us what we already suspected. Daniel is now marked by the curse of the music box and our time is running out. Episode 2 picks up where the previous episode ended. Speaking with Sophie and Lydia at the hospital, Daniel is eager to pay a visit to Isaac Faber. Again, we choose who we want to play as, so I decided to go with Erica, Faber's daughter. Story-wise, it would make sense for Daniel to go looking for Faber, but since Erica is Faber's daughter after all, it makes sense for her to find her missing dad. Entering the store, Erica notices that the lights are on, which is unusual since her dad always turns them off after closing the shop. We begin by investigating the premises, including the flats within the same building complex where both Erica and her father live. All of the flats are deserted, the residents and the night guards are nowhere to be seen. Something feels very off. Re-entering the stores, CCTV footage shows a figure lurking in the gallery and disappears shortly after. We can't hear anything on the other side of the room due to the reinforced steel door, but the camera is no longer picking up any motion, so that is slightly reassuring. Seeking the keys left by the night guards to unlock the rooms, we can combine a hanger and a magnet to snatch them. It's a magnet from Toluca Lake. Who knows, maybe the presence took a trip to Silent Hill and brought back a souvenir. Retrieving the magnet, Erica spots something from above her. Going back to the flats to get the keys, we encounter a new minigame event called the Silence. Just like with hiding and staying calm during the darkness event, you have to hold your breath and keep quiet. Grabbing the keys, we are able to unlock more rooms. Erica also finds her bra in a bathroom, stolen by a night guard obsessed with Erica, named Walter Sullivan. Another nod to Silent Hill. Although Walter's ID photo is more similar to Eddie, you can definitely see the resemblance, right? On our hunt, we eventually get the key to Faber's flat, and there are strange things afoot. Hold up, these weren't here before. Then where's the door? Looks like Faber had a hard time coping. He turned to drinking and taking sleep medication to help with his nightmarish visions. A letter from Husher reveals that he was searching for the owner of the music box. The original owner was Argos Legrand, and you'll be hearing that name often in the later episodes. Husher returned the box to Faber, stating that things have improved since he was no longer in possession of it, and Faber had to find whoever owned it last and give it back to them to be rid of the madness. But since Faber purchased it from an auction lot, he can no longer recollect where he placed the paperwork with the information. As we find out later, Husher was wrong. Giving the box back to whoever had it in possession last will not appease the presence. Once you've heard its melody, you're fucked. In order to get the information needed, Erica needs to travel to the depths of the storage unit to find it. Needing luminol, a UV lamp, and the key to unlock the storage room, we are on another hunt. In theory, once we have all of that, we'll be able to track down all of the items that were sold with the music box, including a bloodied wardrobe and the name and address of the recent owner. There are more puzzles to solve that are probably not as nonsensical as I believe, but my brain rot is taking over. Okay, so we have the luminol, the keys, and a UV lamp needed. Let's David Caruso this bitch. Here we are, in the depths of the void's butthole. You see, once we enter a storage room, the presence senses something, and gives us a chase to flush us out, if you will. Once you hear this, it's time to start running and hide and wait for this to all blow over. The point of the puzzle is to follow the trail of blood to lead us to the room with the wardrobe. Finally, finding the right room, Erica listens to a recording from Daddy Dearest and rushes back to his flat. Upon exiting, we are trapped with the presence. Well, it's been nice knowing you, Erica. Ah yes, Deus Ex Machina decides to intervene. So now equipped with a crowbar, we can smash through Faber's office door. Hold up. You mean to tell me that we could have literally used something to open the door? We were in a goddamn tool shed, Erica! As we suspected, Faber is no longer with us. It is all the more shocking that Erica is the one to find him, but we have no time to grieve as time's running out. The next day, Erica and Daniel visit the owner of the lot purchased by Faber, Ariadne Legrand.
Legrand Amsberg. It's hyphenated.
Sorry, Ariadne Legrand Amsberg. Undoubtedly, judging by her surname, she's related to Argos Legrand, the one who had the box created in the first place. Ariadne says that the box belongs to it, and when Daniel tries to brush it off as senile talk, she sternly responds, "I wasn't speaking to you." Ariadne takes the box and asks Daniel if he listened to the melody. He responds yes, and she is again speaking to the entity, saying he has listened to it, and shuts the door. Erica and Daniel then leave. That same night, while Daniel is crashing at Sophie's place, he sees something in the corner. Turning the light on, it's gone. Daniel realizes that returning the box to its owner did not solve his predicament, as he is still hallucinating, prompting him to continue with his mission to find Husher, as Daniel does not want to end up like Faber. Next stop, the University of Arts and Humanities. Arriving at the university, Daniel meets with Professor Omar Nasiri, Hush's fellow colleague and friend, as well as Grace Richards, a student and mentee of Hush's. These two unfortunate souls are now caught up in this twisted mess, and thus they are our new playable characters. This episode is by far the shortest, only having 3 characters to choose from, so I decided to go with Grace. Grace enters the History Department archive, one of the places where Husher was last seen. Just like the building complex in episode 2, the university is deserted and, haunted? Husher, is that you? Looking for clues, we enter the control room downstairs and find a note from Max, a janitor at the campus. He too was suffering from the same hallucinations. He mentions a door from the slides. The projector slides are up at the archive, but we need the power cord. Searching the room, we get the power cord and also see something in another room. So do we investigate? I hate seeing this gaslighting nonsense because you know it's a gamble. Once we see that accursed question mark, you'll doubt that it's worth investigating, but in this case, you'll want to grab it. It is a matter of life and death. Trust me. There's also a door to the old archive, but it's controlled by a security lever. And since no one is there to hold it, we need to find something to help us out. Going back up, we solve the slide puzzle and enter the mysterious door. The room is a mirror image to the control room downstairs. And we find what looks to be a mummified Max. Sorry, Max, but I'm going to need you to lend me a hand. With Max's hand, we can use it to hold the lever. Inside, we find the book that Husher was searching for, titled Biography of the Legrand Family. The book tells us the story of Argos Legrand, an heir to an industrial empire who blew his family's fortune on researching the paranormal, purchasing supposed cursed objects for his grim collection. I don't know if this was a rich person morbid satisfaction thing or a precursor to Zach Bagans. Maybe Argos just wanted to run his own haunted museum. Anywho, with the book in hand, we are introduced to the Abyss, a new minigame. Just mash buttons until you can break away from those grabby mofos. Grace returns to the office with the book, while Omar and Daniel are still researching. Luckily, Husher left notes in the book, giving us a clue where to go next, the newspaper archive. Again, you get to choose your character, and because the last part was overall very short in playtime, I continued the investigation with Grace. Getting into the archive, majority of the doors are locked, so let's look for clues. In the bathroom, we hear what sounds like Max. I'm sorry about your hand, brother. Desperate times. Max is in need of batteries, so I guess we gotta add that to the list of shit to do. Looks like the renovations were halted. The crew and the faculty all just wiped off of the face of the earth. Unless Husha played the melody through the PA system, I don't understand how it could have affected the entire campus, but that's a concern for later. Entering the admin room, we get Max's batteries and a letter from the receptionist with a clue about the date that Husha needed to find the right article. Back in the bathroom, we throw the batteries to Max, and in return he gives us a key to unlock the other rooms. The stall door opens, but Max has vanished. He was flushed away. Finding the precise date to find the article, 17th of March 1913, we browse through the news archive, and of course, in the crime report section is the article that we need. The article is about the mysterious death of the Legrand-Amsberg family, which of course includes Argos, his wife, and 8-year-old daughter Elaine. The sole survivor was Ariadne, who was only an infant at the time, the very same person Erica and Daniel visited at the end of episode 2. With that revelation, Grace attempts to leave, only to realise that the presence is coming in hot to devour her. Now, at the start of the episode, you know that question mark with the bolt cutters? If you didn't grab them then, your character will not escape and die as a result, which is exactly what happened on my first playthrough. But being the fearless intellectuals that we are, we get out of there in a nick of time and report our findings back at the office. Even with the article, it looks like a dead end. The last thing left to do is to go to the Great Library on campus, where Husha left his research. This is the last part of episode 3, so I thought that it was fitting to go with Daniel this time around, giving Grace a needed rest. It was a gamble, considering if Daniel dies, you have to restart the entire episode, and it is pretty dangerous, considering now the presence is guarding the research in the library. In order to get to the desk with Husha's stuff, we have to check the cameras and come up with a safe path. On my very first playthrough, I played this episode on the release date and couldn't find any walkthroughs as of then, so I drew a map. They looked like the drawings of a mad person. Not to mention both Grace and Omar had perished, so I was left with Daniel, and somehow I managed to survive, sweating throughout the whole segment. Managing to reach the desk with Husha's research, a book titled Sinister Nature sits atop. The book compiles the trips that Legrand carried out with his two stooges during his Warrens era. On his last documented paranormal expedition, Legrand travelled to St. Cecilia's Abbey. Since this was the last place Legrand had visited before his mysterious death, Husha decided to take a trip there too. Hot on the trail, Daniel sets out to the Abbey as well, ending the short episode. Right after episode 3's final cutscene, we are now seeing the story through Husha's lens. Just a day prior to Daniel arriving at the university, Husha had arrived at the Abbey in the dead of night. In this short interlude to episode 4, we are introduced to the next setting, St. Cecilia's Abbey, playing exclusively as the elusive Sebastian Husha. Husha doesn't know that his family and father all died due to the melody's curse. In a cutscene, we see that Husha has been retracing the last steps of Legrand's journey. He was in search for a cursed music sheet. The melody from the sheet was played at the Abbey in 1912 during the annual concert in honor of the titular patron St. Cecilia, where everyone in attendance either died or disappeared without a trace. Making a music box for his daughter, he had that melody recorded and played it to his family. Not long after, Legrand, his wife, and older daughter died, which we already knew thanks to the article. In short, Legrand was a fucking idiot. Even if you're not superstitious by any means, don't use your family as an experiment, you dope. Husha feels that the presence has not left him, so I guess we have nothing left to lose, right? Taking control of Husha, we explore the Abbey. This setting is by far the scariest, and I will expand on it more in a few minutes, as that will be the primary location for the 4th episode. There's a Scooby-Doo mysterious bookshelf door, but in order to move it, we'll need to open up the plumbing valves to get it open. Husha also pays tribute to the great James Sunderland by sticking his hand into a toilet. Guess we're not using a stick? Nope, we are going in raw. Now with the toilet unclogged and the valves all opened, the mechanism to the secret door gives way. We can enter the room. In the room, a corpse lays on a bed, but we're going to ignore that. Instead, a note on a lectern piques our interest, written by the Abbey's prior, Father Malachias. In the note, Father Malachias was concerned over the increasingly disturbed behaviour of the monks, who would perform a strange ritual. Facing a mirror, they would dim the light and turn it back on. They would repeat the same steps for a while, in hopes of seeing something in a reflection that wasn't their own. The note is brief and doesn't give us much to go on. After reading the note, this chunky boy appears and begins to chase Husha. Husha runs into a hallway, locking the door. The hallway is very familiar. It looks exactly like the hall with the cells where Daniel was trapped in the first episode in Husha's mansion, and begins to perform the same ritual as the monks. I was clenching something fierce, and then we get this to be continued BS? Well then, let's continue, shall we? We've made it this far, friends. Trust me, it was definitely worth the wait. As I've said before, this location is simply unmatched when it comes to scares. We pick up where we last left from. Daniel has arrived at the Abbey where he bumps into Hush's friend and our new playable character, Ernest Finnegan. Ernest tells Daniel that he hasn't seen Husher in 4 days after dropping him off at the Abbey. Daniel is now extra concerned, so it's time to break into the Abbey. Of course, I'll be choosing Ernest in this episode. After all,
I can go have a look. After all, I know the area, more or less.
That's the spirit, Ernest. Let's go. Exploring the ruins of the Abbey, our main objective is to find Husher. Of course, it will not be so easy, as this episode is unrelenting when it comes to scares, cryptic puzzles, and that damn maze section. More on that later. In this episode, there are many documents that we come across. Usually in games, I find that to be lazy storytelling and a chore. However, in Song of Horror, this is crafted so well that finding these documents gives us more insight into the history and narrative of the game and what happened to those who had perished as a result of hearing the melody. Before I delve further into the episode, I will mention the big four, the prominent figures at the Abbey: the prior, Father Malachias; the abbot, Father Aguano; the librarian, Brother Ermino; and the treasurer, Brother Victorino. The reason why I mention these names is because our objective is to find 4 ornate keys belonging to them, which unlocks the locked door that contained the people who were originally affected by the melody. The monks of the Abbey had no idea what to do with them, so they locked them in and gave each key to the monks I've mentioned, and unfortunately, that is our final destination. Making our way from the old to the new cloister, we encounter a new enemy and minigame, the Requiem. This is by far the most anxiety-inducing minigame. Using a lamp and a mirror, we track the entity behind us. Once it's in our sight, we blast the bitch with the light. We get more information on the 4 keys, thanks to Brother Ermino, the librarian. In cryptic fashion, the note tells us where to look for the keys. Starting with the prior, Father Malachias, we got to pry it out of the prior, using a retractor. Unfortunately, we have to assemble the damn thing first. Ah, there we go. That's 1 key down, 3 to go. In the building, we can distill some spirit, combine it with the lantern, light it up, and go down the spooky well. We're in the underground crypts, and believe me, it gets worse. We unlock the door to lead us to the church, and yep, there's another puzzle. Operating the levers, we open the sections to lead us to the ladder, making sure we contain the presence at the same time. Should you fail, you can kiss your character goodbye. Ah, we've made it to the church. Going back to the grounds through the scriptorium, the undead monks are studying, so I'll just be going. Don't mind me, carry on. The stress was real. Oh, but it gets worse. In the graveyard, there's a gate, but it's rusted shut. Thanks to our homemade, eco-friendly WD-40, we come across statues pointing at one particular coffin. You better not be punking me. Okay, got the 2nd key. Looks like poor Ermino didn't make it. From here, we travel to the abbot's quarters, and oh dear lord, this is some next-level Ed Gein decor. The abbot, Father Aguano, was coerced by the presence to carry out these horrendous atrocities. The other monks were also disturbed, but Aguano was influenced differently, becoming a murderer. In the next room, we see an altar. I guess Aguano found a new god. In his diary, we see the timeline of the madness taking over him. It wasn't immediate, nor is there some sort of a deadline. I guess the presence works in mysterious ways. The next key is inside a wax statue of Virgin Mary. Going back to the previous room, the abbot's painting has changed, and now we know who the chonky boy is. The same one that chased Husher, an enemy for this episode's silence minigame. With the wax statue, we have to track it back to the ovens, but before we do that, let's go and tear shit up. Using the gear from before to open the trapdoor, we can reuse it to break open the thurible, finding Brother Victorino's key. Melting the wax statue, we grab the last key needed and go up to the guarded door. Unlocking it, Daniel magically appears and tells Ernest to take a hike. Playing now as Daniel, we enter the room where the monks were locked up. It is of course the same hallway where Husher went at the end of the interlude and where Daniel was previously trapped. We enter the room where Husher was last seen. Daniel finds the now lifeless Husher. Walking out, we are teleported to another room. A little girl and the same woman who has been haunting Daniel sit at the table. They are unaware of his presence. Since we can't interact with them, Daniel grabs the diary of Argos Legrand and legs it. We are now endlessly running in the hallway, trying to open whatever door we can to escape. We come across a room, this time with bones scattered on the floor. A shattered mirror beckons us. Daniel sees a gnarly hallucination of his potential fate. Daniel manages to escape, ending the episode. In the cutscene, Daniel speaks with Ernest, telling him Husher is dead. Daniel returns to his office and starts looking into Legrand's journal. This is it, the final episode. We get a glimpse into the last moments of Auguste Legrand and what happened the night of his family's death. In his journal, Legrand recounts the night. In the basement, he found his wife Natalie and older daughter Elaine. He walks upstairs into Ariadne's room and finds Natalie and Elaine, believing them to be the presence in disguise. He then kills them. Going back to the basement, he sees that Natalie and Elaine are nowhere to be found. This is because they were never in the basement. That was just a hallucination. The real Natalie and Elaine are the ones that Legrand just killed. Unable to cope with what he had done, Legrand took his own life, leaving baby Ariadne the sole survivor. In the present, Daniel dreams of a double door, with a motif resembling the presence. Daniel, who is dead tired from his unending investigations, seeks help from an ally. This time I chose his sponsor and friend Lydia, who is only seen in the cutscenes. She is a new addition to the playable characters exclusive for this episode. Daniel calls Lydia, asking her to investigate the Jeremy Hartwood Mental Hospital, an institution where Ariadne was committed to in 1920. Hoping to retrieve any research left behind by Dr. Berenice Prestegard, Ariadne's psychiatrist and a woman from Daniel's hallucinations, Lydia makes her way to the hospital. Lydia arrives at the hospital. There's no power due to a broken generator, so of course we are left alone in the dark. While we are on a hunt to get the things needed to fix the generator, we come across a photo puzzle, which is by far the most complex puzzle in the entire game. Even the developers of the game were like, Huh? Going into a freezer, we reluctantly grab a cable to fix the Jenny and release the Kraken. With the Jenny up and running, we light up one area at a time, so I began with the security wing. Needing an 8-digit code to enter the security room, the photo puzzle gives us the numbers needed. Luckily, it's not a randomized puzzle, otherwise I'd be screwed. In the room, Lydia finds notes left behind by Berenice. Her sessions with Ariadne often went nowhere, as Ariadne wouldn't talk, until one day she asked for her belongings. Amongst Ariadne's possessions was her music box and her father's diary. As we know, Legrand was after the cursed sheet music. When he retrieved the sheet music, he boarded a steamer boat back home and convinced a musician on board to play the music. Although the musician was apprehensive, he played it. Legrand was convinced that there was no curse and ridiculed those who believed it. To prove a point, he had the melody recorded and states that he will play it to his family every day. What a dick. After Legrand got off the boat, the other passengers on board died due to a strange accident only a few hours later. Upstairs, we can explore the patient's rooms. Solving a piano puzzle, we get a tiny key, which opens a cabinet in the projection room. Grabbing a reel, we watch Ariadne's session with Berenice. Ariadne is seen drawing. When Berenice asks her who she is drawing, Ariadne says it's Mr. Neuer, as in Daniel Neuer, our main protagonist. One of Ariadne's drawings also shows an old lady, saying that it's her. I don't know whether this is some time travel clairvoyant thing going on or if the presence is influencing her to see this. At this point, it's not explained. Berenice offers to play the music box. Ariadne says that she will not understand the melody, and the only way to understand it is for Berenice to go to the Legrand-Amsberg mansion and listen to it there. For some cooked reason, Berenice thinks it's a good idea, and if that is what will help Ariadne, then she thinks it's worth a try. Yeah, no. After viewing the reel, we come across an experiment report. 12 patients, including Ariadne, were a part of an experiment. One group, the experimental group, the one with Ariadne, would listen to the song daily, which was approximately 4 minutes in length. The other group, the control group, would live in the padded rooms for 3 weeks straight. This was to prove that the melody had no effect on the patients and was all a part of Ariadne's imagination. Switching the light to the morgue wing, we can venture into the section, but the padded rooms are off limits for now as the doors are made of reinforced steel, just like the gallery room in the second episode. Finding a second experiment document, it confirms that 2 patients had vanished. In Berenice's office, we find audio recordings left by her, detailing her own experiment. Berenice stayed at the Legrand mansion and listened to the music box. There are a total of 3 audio recordings that we will listen to before the episode ends, so I will talk about them before we wrap up this episode. Collecting a broken belt and combining it with a stapler, we get a replacement belt for the lift. That is one OH&S failure. This is a horror game and logic is thrown out the window. Now we can explore the other section of the second floor, beyond the locked double doors. Finding a key to Dr. Alan Cedric's office, we get the final experiment report. 5 out of the 6 patients in the experiment group had vanished, save for Ariadne. Dr. Cedric could not get in touch with Berenice, as she had also disappeared. When Cedric asked Ariadne if she knew where Berenice was, she responded by asking him if Berenice was finally there. A following note, also written by Cedric, stated that the experiment was a failure, with all of the test subjects going insane. Their minds were completely shattered by the melody. The only person unaffected was Ariadne. Cedric also mentions that the reason Ariadne has never been affected by the melody is because she was just a baby upon hearing it. Her mind absorbed the darkness, therefore the presence had its influence on her since before her mind could even develop, hence she was unscathed. The twisted visions and hallucinations were a part of her everyday life. In the office, we grab a stethoscope, which allows Lydia to hear what's on the other side of the padded rooms where the experiment took place. Only 1 out of the 6 rooms is safe to enter, which of course was Ariadne's room. By now, Lydia should have already listened to all of Berenice's recordings. After listening to the final one, Lydia calls Daniel to give him an update, saying that Berenice had a plan to take the music box to there, a non-existent place in our reality. Daniel realizes what he must do. He leaves the office and goes to pay Ariadne another visit, which brings us to the end of the 5th episode, and we reach the last segment, the finale. Before we delve into the finale, I will summarize the dreams of Berenice and her eventual disappearance. In the first dream, taking control of Berenice, we venture out of Ariadne's room into what looks to be a gallery. We read the inscription on the stone tablet, and shortly after, a bust appears, with Berenice's face, telling her to wake up. Leaving the gallery, we descend down the stairs, only to be back in the gallery reading the stone tablet again. The same bust appears, urging us to wake up once more. We do another loop. The room looks more demented, and there is a painting of Daniel, although Berenice has no idea who it is. Reading the stone tablet again, the bust appears, and this time it's really telling us to wake up.
Wake up!
Leaving the gallery, we go downstairs again, but this time at the end of the corridor, we spot a figure on a wheelchair with a sack over their head. Taking it off, it's the ghost of Berenice, screaming. Berenice then wakes up, and the first recording ends. In the second dream, Berenice finds herself at the hospital, where she is eventually caught by the presence. Trapped in a padded room, writing on the wall tells us that there's only one way out. We are given several options on how to escape. I'm guessing this is how the other victims of the Melody's curse had also felt, devoid of any hope. You get a choice: an awl, a razor blade, a noose, and finally a bottle with a mysterious liquid. We get the choice of drinking it. To finish the second dream, there's no option but to consume it. Berenice wakes up once more, and this takes us to her final dream. In her last dream, Berenice realizes that the presence will not stop unless the box is returned to where it came from. Berenice falls asleep and finds herself in the final dream. This time, a lift materializes, taking her to there, the homeland of the presence. Making her way down to the depths of the void, a figure with a lantern stands before a double door, the same one from Daniel's nightmare. The figure holding the lantern is the ghostly version of Berenice. She has no choice but to turn the light off. Before she can, however, the double door opens, revealing the presence, and the screen fades to black. Judging by Berenice's expression, it's safe to say that she didn't make it, becoming another victim. Her body is now trapped in the presence's dimension, known as there. Playing as Daniel once more, we drive to Ariadne's mansion, hoping to accomplish what Berenice couldn't. Arriving at the mansion, we let ourselves in. Most of the doors are locked, but we can explore the hall on the ground floor, and there are some concerning paintings hung up. For instance, one of them titled The Exit is the same one we've seen previously in the second episode when Erica tries to leave her father's flat. Entering the only unlocked door, Daniel finds Ariadne sitting in the dark. Ariadne tells Daniel that its box is upstairs. You can try talking to her a few times after that, but she'll just keep repeating that the box is upstairs. Upon leaving the room, Ariadne says something pretty disturbing.
She wants to help me. I don't need help, but she does. Elaine, my sister. Always young, always dark.
Is Ariadne talking about Berenice? Or about her sister Elaine? Or someone else? She follows up with this. Well, there's no going back now, so we track it upstairs to Ariadne's bedroom. Daniel finds the music box sitting on a desk, along with a lamp and a mirror. He begins to switch the lamp off and on, just like the monks and Husher did at the Abbey. In doing so, he is teleported to there. Exploring the area, we find 4 doors with 4 names: Argos Legrand, Berenice Prestegard, Isaac Faber, and Sebastian Husher. In order to open the double doors, we have to complete the segments from each of the victims' rooms. There are 4 lamps above the door that work as a lock mechanism. Each one extinguishes when completing said segment. If you manage to collect all of Ariadne's drawing at the hospital in the 5th episode, then you only need to complete 2 out of the 4 segments. I chose to go through Hush's and Berenice's doors. In Hush's segment, we are in a theatre. To finish the puzzle, we assembled the narrative of what happened to his family. In Berenice's segment, we have to figure out which of the 2 patients have not listened to the melody yet. With that done, the doors unlock. Daniel takes the music box and places it at the far end of the area. Suddenly, all of the victims of the void come at us like a twisted hurricane. Daniel manages to barely escape, somehow teleporting back to Ariadne's room. Going downstairs, Daniel speaks with Ariadne. He assures her that everything will be okay and that no one will ever hear the song again. Dead tired from his otherworldly trip, Daniel falls asleep, and when he wakes up, the room is pitch black. When he tries to turn the lights on, Ariadne states that it doesn't like the light, but it likes the song. Ariadne, the sneaky dusty mole, pulls out another music box, this one belonging to her older sister Elaine. So there were 2 of them. That's the twist. In the end credits, we get one final cutscene. It starts off with a glowing shadow of a door, the same door as in the painting at Ariadne's mansion. Daniel begs Etienne to let him out, but Etienne, terrified of seeing the presence, shuts the door, leaving Daniel to be consumed by it. Oh boy, where do I even begin with the ending? Okay, let's break this down. Just like with all of the games I've covered on the channel so far, the ending is ambiguous as all hell. In my most basic interpretation, I think the events from the prelude to the final scene was Daniel's last hope. He imagined that he was saved and was able to defeat the presence by leaving the music box and its melody there, in the presence's dwelling. I do believe that whoever you choose in the first episode goes to investigate the Husher mansion. However, seeing the presence, the character swiftly closes the door, leaving Daniel for dead. That part is not a figment of Daniel's imagination. It is a brutal end for our boy Daniel. It's safe to say that none of the actual events took place. This was just Daniel fighting to survive. As we already know, Ariadne had an older sister, Elaine. It makes sense that crazy Argus Legrand would make 2 music boxes, each one for his daughters. Even though Daniel was able to get rid of Ariadne's music box, no one suspected that there was one also made for Elaine, which was in Ariadne's possession, making Daniel's trip to there pointless. Ariadne is not a victim. She is simply an agent of the presence, working for it. Ariadne was just a baby when she first heard the melody. Ariadne's mind became twisted and her sense of reality was warped, which is why she was unafraid of the melody. Fast forward to 1998, Faber purchased a bundle of Legrand's belongings, including Ariadne's music box and the wardrobe. In the finale, Ariadne mentions that no one escapes the closet. I think the wardrobe is either some cosmic prison for the victims or perhaps a doorway to there that is linked to the locked hallway at the Abbey, where both Daniel and Husher were trapped. One of the biggest mysteries is who put the wardrobe and the music box up for sale. It had to be Ariadne. Her whereabouts were unknown from her stay at the Jeremy Hartwood Hospital in 1920 to 1998, where she lived at her family mansion. Were there other victims in between that time period? There's no articles or any research to suggest that, so why wait for 78 years? The only concrete evidence about the origin of the melody is in the 5th episode. Berenice consults a friend, sending them a drawing made by Ariadne. It is possible that there is a hidden chamber in the Cave of Altamira. Well, a fictional version of the caves. The Cave of Altamira is a real location in the Cantabria region in Spain. It's also possible that a person came across the chamber and heard the melody centuries ago, creating the sheet music which would eventually end up in the library of St. Cecilia's Abbey. After performing the song in 1912, it would result in a deadly disaster, and thanks to that jackass Legrand, it was then recorded. This brings us to the end of the video. I think Song of Horror is an exceptional game despite its ending. I'll give it a balanced 8 out of 10 Cthulhus. It was a fun throwback for fans of original survival horror games. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions for me to cover in the future, so leave a comment below. If you liked the video, hit that like button. Come on, do it for Lenny. Also, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. It's free and I will really appreciate it. Stay calm and safe, my friends. I will catch you next time.